So, Chris, we go back a lot of years. For full disclosure for everyone listening, we were roommates together at the Naval Academy in Annapolis, Maryland. But, Chris, I've always known you were from out west and kind of into some crazy adventurous stuff. So, tell us a little bit about your life, kind of your background, just growing up, and kind of what you're doing today.
Hell yeah. I was born and raised in West Valley City, Utah, outside Salt Lake. Big outdoorsy state. Obviously, we've got the 5 national parks out there. My parents always made it a big priority to be outdoors and have an appreciation for nature. So always found ourselves either hiking or fishing or camping on the weekends. And yeah, like Rob said, we met up in college. We were roommates for 2 years. And that love and appreciation I have for nature and conservation, tried to pass it on to everyone around me. So here I am, spreading the word.
So, obviously, we went to school together, like I said, in Maryland, which, for those of you who don't know, I mean, we were on the water, but really no mountains in sight. The nearest, I guess, even hill, if you want to call it that, was, Shenandoah National Park, about 2.5, 3 hours away. But growing up, I mean, you had that at your kind of backstab. You had that at your fingertips.
Yeah, and it wasn't really until I left Salt Lake and moved away that I really realized that appreciation I had for the mountains, especially going home during the holidays or for the summer, trying to take advantage of everything that I just kind of was used to when I was living there. So yeah, as soon as you move away from something where it's so easily accessible, you do have that yearning to get back to it as soon as you can.
It's funny. So I'm from Pennsylvania, and as soon as I moved away, I was like, "Oh, it's a great place to be from," but I'm not going to move back. And then as I kept traveling, and I went to flight school with the Navy, and as the two of us did, but living in southeast of the United States, I was like, "Man, I really miss being back home." But for me, I kind of took a different path, and I need big mountains and bigger scenery right there. But for you, I mean, you kind of looked back, and you're like, "Wow." Utah was amazing. I mean, you said you had 5 national parks at your back door. East Coast has got green going on, but other than that, I mean, it really didn't have what you're talking about. So, like, were you just always kind of like, was it every weekend you were going out? Was it with your dad or your grandpa or like with your friends or?
So our family, we had a cabin up in the Uinta Mountains, which are east of Salt Lake, and I remember going up there. God, the entire summer growing up through school, and then on the weekends, obviously, as we could through the school year. So our parents made it a big priority that they wanted to raise their kids up there, and because that's what they were used to when they grew up. My dad grew up fishing and hunting and camping, and he had realized that that's the best way to raise a kid is outdoors, letting them play in the dirt, and they wanted to take advantage of that, and they set aside the time and money to put us up there, and here we are.
For sure. Now, you're a full-time Navy pilot right now. So what do you do exactly for the Navy?
Yeah, I'm currently stationed in San Diego, California, and I'm a helicopter instructor pilot out here, which has been great because flying out over the mountains east of San Diego makes it really easy to pick out good camping spots while we're out there.
For sure. Now, do you think that like your history growing up and your upbringing related to or led into you doing what you're doing now? I mean, really, flying for the Navy has nothing to do with going on hiking trips with your dad and fly fishing with your grandfather. But is there any influence that carried over, or was that a separate passion of yours that you kind of pursued, and also on the side you like to get outside as well?
I had never really bridged the gap between my profession and my hobbies until moving out here. Growing up, I knew I wanted to fly. My dad was always taking us down to the airport, and we were watching the planes land, and he would quiz us on the different airlines or what type of plane was landing. And I think that's where the love of flying came from. And then as I transitioned into my career, I had plenty of work to do, but I was looking for ways to obviously escape from work and just kind of set the soul at ease and center myself. And being outdoors, growing up really helped with that. And I realized I needed to get back to that and focus on that to keep myself centered.
For sure. And for those of us that don't know, like listening, so you went to the Naval Academy, like we said a few times. So what exactly is that? What is the process to get in, and what does it mean when you graduate?
Yeah, so Naval Academy is located in Annapolis, Maryland, and for me, going there was the only way I was going to be able to afford college. Had my parents don't make a lot of money, and we realized that joining the military is one of the best options outside of getting a scholarship. So went to school there. It's obviously a military academy where you go for 4 years. You're essentially in the military while you're there, and then once you graduate, you're commissioned as an officer in one of the services. So graduated from the Naval Academy and luckily selected naval aviation as my career pipeline. And that ended up taking me through a few different spots for flight school throughout the U.S. And started my helicopter flying career out in Norfolk, Virginia. Flew out there for a few years, and then I'm out in San Diego teaching the young guys coming through how to fly the MH-60.
So you went to the academy. You said because obviously it was a great way to afford your way through college. But was it primarily because you wanted to fly?
I didn't have anybody in my family that went to college, so I had no reference to what was required to be a pilot or what I needed to major in to find a job out in the real world. And I honestly, I'm kind of like you, Rob. We saw the movie Top Gun and we're like,
Hell
what?
Yeah.
That's what I want to do.
Great movie.
So good advertising. Yeah.
So, I mean, but I guess, so, being from the East Coast, why didn't you just go to the Air Force Academy, which is a lot closer, kind of more you talk about being in the outdoors and loving everything Utah has to offer, and Colorado is one state over. Why didn't you just go to the Air Force Academy if you wanted to fly for the military?
Because the Air Force Academy didn't have the F-14 Tomcat. No, it was, I had originally planned to apply to all the service academies. And on the day of the interviews with our senators, I got the flu. And I was only able to stomach through one interview before having to go home. And the only one I made it through was the Naval Academy. So therefore, I kind of picked my own fate through how I was feeling that day. That's
hilarious. Yeah, it's funny how those little stories happen to us in life and kind of set up your path for the rest of your life. So anyway, so right now you're an instructor pilot in San Diego. So what exactly does that entail? What is your kind of day-to-day? Like you said, flying with the new guys. What does that mean?
Yeah, so we're taking the new folks that had selected the platform that they're going to fly for the Navy. Ours is the MH-60 Sierra. It's a multi-mission platform that the Navy uses everything from search and rescue to logistics to carrier defense and everything in between. We're kind of a jack of all trades. So I'm taking these guys who have been through basic helicopter flight school and then teaching them exactly how to fly the machine that they're going to be flying on deployment in harm's way. So it was a job that I had looked at that kept me flying in the same aircraft that I flew in the fleet, and I wanted to share that love and appreciation of helicopter aviation with guys that are just starting and impart on them the importance of it. And it's just fun to fly, you know?
Yeah,
so.
It looks, I've never flown a helicopter. I've been in a few, but never actually been at the controls, and it looks fantastic. I mean, just that you can go obviously forward and backwards, but then up and down and stop and hover and everything in between. So it looks pretty awesome. So
it's quite a different style flying as well. Obviously being a lot lower to the ground, your references are going to be different. Your speed is different. And then obviously just the basic capabilities of the aircraft are going to be different. Sure. Like you said, we can hide behind things. We can fly at 25 feet down along rivers and things like that. So it gives you a greater appreciation for where you're flying. Obviously it's not fast and sexy like a jet, but it gets the job done.
For sure. Now, so where you are in your career, you weren't always just an instructor pilot, right? So what was kind of before this? Did you go on deployment?
Yeah, so I was on deployment on the East Coast, went out to, did a nice 8-month cruise in the Persian Gulf out there, and that was able to kind of be my springboard into the career that I have right now. So doing well in your first job obviously sets you up for success in the future. So we worked hard, my wife and I, to both get orders out here in San Diego to keep doing what we love.
That's awesome. What does your wife do in the military?
She is a surface warfare officer. So she had originally started with driving ships. And now she's on her way out of the military. She's leaving here in a few months to hopefully start working as a barista. And then our goal is to open up our own coffee shop.
That's awesome. So how does everything, being your love for aviation and naval aviation in particular, how does that combine with, trying to, in your words, get outside and get towards, get to places that, I guess, where you can be alone and be in nature? Is that a hard balance to do?
Our job in particular is kind of one of the ones that's more sought after for people who are more career oriented in the military. So they expect a little bit longer working hours, since you are essentially the face of the Navy that guys are saying when they first join the fleet. So the hours are a little bit longer around here, but as expected, they do want you to take that time off just so you can keep yourself sane. We are looking at San Diego as a good option for us, obviously, because it's a change of scenery from our 3 years in Virginia. And we wanted to take advantage of the Navy being able to move us around, see different places, and just kind of get a full appreciation for everything that our great country has to offer. So we moved down to go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, so I find it very interesting that one of your big passions in life is to be a Navy pilot, right? Which obviously, like, you've landed on and off aircraft carriers as a helicopter pilot. You've launched missiles. You have weapons on your aircraft. But at the same time, I know you to be a very passionate hiker, backpacker. You've done a NOLS trip in Alaska. So I just find it unique that, one end of the spectrum, you're kind of, guns blazing, looking for that adrenaline rush. On the other side, it almost seems like the other way that you escape everything is to kind of get out in the middle of nowhere.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Shout out to NOLS. Great program if you guys haven't heard about it. I was able to do a 24-day kayaking trip up through Prince William Sound up in Alaska through them. And it was a military-sanctioned training, but it was probably some of the best training I've had in my entire life. Just basic leadership skills as well as survival skills, and being able to kind of just disconnect from society for a little bit. So, yeah, I know, Rob, you did the same thing. You did a NOLS course up in Wyoming, right?
I did, yeah. I just did one a few months back. It wasn't as long as yours. It was just about a week, but it was fantastic. It was unbelievable. I mean, we spent 6 days, 7 nights, kind of there, the other way around, but backpacking through the Wind River Range in Wyoming, and it was just unbelievable. For me, just the ability to leave your cell phone back. We weren't allowed to take anything electronic in. If you had a watch, you just had to tell time, and that was it. And I think about the third or fourth day, I really started to escape the world and just kind of, I don't know, summon my inner John Muir. But really, just it was unbelievable. And I can't imagine what almost a month did for you in Alaska. So you said sea kayaking. Were you like, do you paddle and then you camp on the side, or how does that work?
So our trip, we went out for 24 days, like I said, and we had packed everything that we were going to take for the entire trip.
Including all your food and whatnot?
All of our food and everything. So initially, we, based on just like the endurance and agility of the folks, in conjunction with how heavy our kayaks were, we were only putting in 4 or 5 mile days initially. But by the end of the trip, we were looking at 15 or 16 mile days that we were able to move with the lighter kayaks, and obviously as your strength and endurance build up while you're out there. But absolutely incredible experience. We were up there from June until July, and yeah, I mean, the views that you saw every day, being able to wake up next to a glacier or go kayaking with the orca whales, and getting followed by sea otters and bald eagles was an incredible experience.
That's unbelievable. Do you think that influenced you at all, that trip in itself, or you kind of, that just, if anything, solidified what you wanted to do, I guess, after you got out of the Navy someday? That trip
made me realize that you can go 3 weeks without showering and still be okay. Some of the skills that we took away from up there, I've still used in my daily life, of even just kind of seeing what's necessary. What do I need to live off of for 24 days?
Right.
And it essentially it made you a minimalist on what you take while you're out camping. But yeah, I mean, going on that trip definitely helped to help me realize how small we are compared to Mother Nature. We had a few close calls. We were out there with just various storms. And I mean, we were 50 or 60 miles away from any sort of civilization. We had one kind of emergency radio that we'd be able to talk to somebody on. But I mean, we'd go 4 or 5 days without seeing another soul while we we're out there. And it was initially very overwhelming of like, oh man, it's not like we can just stop and go to a hotel or call a boat to come get us. We would, even if something did go wrong, we'd probably have to wait at least a day or two before somebody could get out to pick us up.
Now that point though, you were in your early 20s. You're at the Naval Academy. You're a student, a midshipman at the Naval Academy, and you're on your summer training. So I can't think of a better time to do something like that. But that being said, anybody can do this, right? I mean, this is not something that's for the young at heart, for the 20-something-year-olds, or for just the men only. But anybody can do a NOLS trip any time of their life. Do you have any tips for people out there?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, ours was obviously through the Naval Academy. It was just a program that they offered. I mean, we had various skill levels of people coming through, people that had never been in the woods before, all the way up through folks that spend, especially our instructors who spend more days in a tent than they do in a house over the last 10 years. So we went into it realizing that everybody was going to be on different levels, but at the end of the day, our job was to work as a team to get from point A to point B throughout the trip. So that's where I think the big and their ultimate goal is to bring that leadership into the training. Like, we weren't just out there kayaking and enjoying ourselves. We were having different lessons, learning how to survive off the land, and then at the end of the trip, or towards the end of the trip, they split us up into 2 groups of students, and the instructor said, all right, meet us here in 3 days, and they set off in their kayaks, and then we all had to plan our own routes and eventually get up and meet with them. So I had the opportunity to lead one of those groups, and it was, like I said, it was the best training that I've had that the military has offered to me so far. And I think just the combination of the different personalities that you're working with while you're out there, in conjunction with the unpredictability of storms coming through Prince William Sound, the decisions that we made would definitely affect the lives of the folks that were with us. So yeah, I would definitely spend money again to go and do one of those trips.
One thing that for me really jumps out when you do something like that, and like I said, I've only done a fraction of what you did for about a week, and it was still incredible just after those first couple of days to escape everything. But is that if you are like literally living off of the seasons, right? When the sun comes up, you're getting out. When the sun goes down, you're going to sleep. You're hanging out near water, obviously, because you need that. Obviously, sea kayaking is a little bit different maybe than finding a river system, but I just find it very almost like back to our roots as a species, and something that for me seems very important that we need to kind of we've done such a good job as human beings at kind of making our life comfortable, and now we've done such a good job at it that we almost need to go back into that uncomfortableness in order to kind of rediscover who we really are. So I think those kind of trips they speak volume for themselves, and the value is just you cannot put a price on it, honestly.
Oh yeah. I mean, I'd totally agree with you on the fact of finding yourself getting uncomfortable just because it's something that you haven't experienced before. But I think it's good for the soul to get out there and kind of see what you're capable of and the limits that you can push your body to while you're out there. And I mean, it was, like I said, extremely rewarding for what we're able to accomplish. We did 212 miles in 24 days. And I mean, after that, the second day, we had no intentions of breaking 100 miles. I think we were all kind of overwhelmed with what was required to survive this trip. And by the end, I mean, we were just clicking on all cylinders. And I mean, definitely an experience of a lifetime. And I would challenge anybody to get out there and do something like that.
Was that your first time in Alaska?
It was. And that's why I ended up marrying someone from Alaska so I could get back there, have some connections.
Do you think the two of you are going to end up settling down there someday, or?
I I think we'll eventually find ourselves up there, but not for a while. There's plenty of other places that we want to live and enjoy before we eventually move up there. But I mean, you go up there and you never want to come back. It's tough to get on the plane every time.
Yeah.
Just the desolation, even though it is obviously a state and there's established cities and stuff like that. But I mean, you drive a half an hour out of town and you are in the middle of nowhere.
That's
and
awesome.
Yeah, that's exactly the kind of places I'm looking for.
Yeah.
So
I guess like going back a little bit, we talked about your kind of youth and growing up and everything you did with your dad and your grandfather and the fly fishing and the camping. But was there a certain memory that you can look back and kind of point a finger and say, you know what, this is when I discovered my love for the outdoors, my love for getting into nature?
I think the biggest memory that has translated into what I do now would be learning how to fly fish. My dad took my little brother and I to a high school, and we took some basic lessons. I remember it was an old gym outside of Salt Lake, and we went up there, and he tied a little piece of yarn to our fly rods, and we learned the basic mechanics for casting, how to tie flies on, how to tie the line on, and then once we were done there, we'd go home in our backyard, and he would make us cast in the backyard and practice that. That way, when we get up to the river, we didn't look like fools. So we'd get up there to the river, get all our lines set up. Inevitably, one of us would catch something on a tree or a rock, and my dad would have to wade out into the water and unhook it for us, or shimmy up a tree to unhook it for us. But I think having that be such a prized memory growing up, that it translated into something that I've wanted to continue to do for the rest of my life. So
I'm envisioning a river runs through it right now in my head. I know your dad very well. I just with a metronome out there, and all right, 10 and 2. That's fantastic.
Oh yeah. It was not fun at times, but I mean, it's one of those things where you look back on it now and you're like, oh God, I wish I could just go do that all the time. And he's an absolute book of knowledge when it comes to fly fishing, and he knows how to read the rivers and the patterns, and trying to tap into that level of knowledge and use that now has been super helpful wherever we go, whether we're fishing at home or when you and I did our trip up to Yosemite last year.
Oh yeah. So we'll get to that in a second. So what is it about fly fishing that, I mean, do you find yourself that you enjoy fishing in any type of water, like saltwater fishing on a boat, like, deep sea fishing, or is it just fly fishing? What is it that speaks to you about that?
I mean, part of it is just where you fly fish, because it's beautiful.
Right.
I know there's people out there that can argue, you can fly fish anywhere, but I'm a big fan of just the rivers out west. I just need wide open mountains and cold water and trout, and that's my happy place. I think trout are a beautiful fish, whether it's the browns, brookies, cutthroats, anything like that. They're a blast to catch, and I think one of the biggest things is being able to catch a fish like that, look at it, appreciate it, and then put it back into the river again. My dad was always big on only take what you need while you're out there. So a lot of it, we would catch fish, kind of look at it, take a picture with it, appreciate it, and then just put it back in the water.
I've done some reading that maybe I've just now discovered it myself. I don't know, but there's a big movement now about, I think it's hashtag keep 'em wet. It's essentially about, when you catch a fish, especially like a river trout, maybe either extremely limiting the amount of time you take a photo with it, or you're eliminating that entirely, and just kind of obviously you look at it, you kind of thank it for the fight, and then you just release it very slowly. I just find that remarkable. It's something that I never was taught growing up. I never did any fly fishing growing up until say we went together in Yosemite. But I just think, for me, fly fishing as an inspiring fly fisherman, I think it's just a beautiful sport. And as you said, the scenery where you're at is usually remarkable. And I know there's some incredible saltwater fly fishermen out there, which is a whole other ballpark. But just, I think being out there and kind of hearing nothing except the sound of the fly rod going back and forth, and just the birds and and the other animals is just incredible.
Yeah, if there's any saltwater fly fishermen out there that want to take me out, I'm all for it.
Someday, that's definitely on our bucket list for sure. So you
Oh yeah.
mentioned, Yosemite. So I just for everyone listening, we went to Yosemite for me for the first time last year, and it was my second time fly fishing. I think I went one time with my wife in Scotland, caught nothing, but you showed me the way of the fly and caught my first couple fish, and it was just incredible. So thank you for everything you taught me there.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, and if for people listening, if you don't know what Yosemite is, get on Google right now and look at it.
Oh my God.
And book a trip there right now.
How many times have you been to Yosemite?
Oh, let's see, probably 6 times so far in my life, and fly fish there 4 times, and it's breathtaking. John Muir hit the jackpot when he was in that area.
Unfortunately, the only time I've been was with you. We were in an RV trip for a week. You, me, my wife, your wife, and my then about 3-month-old son, Robert, which was awesome. But we were there about, would you say 4 hours before they closed the park down?
Yeah. If you guys don't remember, that was we had the crazy wildfires that came through that area last year, and which made finding good camping spots pretty easy.
It did.
Everybody had left.
It did. Considering that you, myself, and my wife, all from different computers and different sides of the country, tried to book a campsite at the exact minute that it opened to find that nothing was available. And then fast forward 5 months, unfortunately the park was closing for the wildfires, and we were able to just kind of roll in and be like, oh, we're going to take this one. But at the same time, I'm worried about my, couple-week-old baby boy breathing smoky air. So kind of a trade-off there, unfortunately. But anyway, but beautiful nonetheless.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's definitely a place to see all seasons of the year. And, I mean, whatever you're into, whether that's hiking, biking, fishing, car camping, I mean, it's got a little bit of everything for everyone. And I mean, even just driving through the valley during the day is absolutely breathtaking.
Unbelievable. I don't think, I'm embarrassed to say, but I don't think I realized what a national park was until a couple years back. I mean, I've always heard of like the Grand Canyon, and I've got family that's from near the Smokies, but no one in my family said, "Oh, this is a national park." And now I've got the National Park Geek patch that my son and I have together. But you honestly were one of the first people that kind of introduced that to me, and one of the first places that I went to, and I said, "Oh, this is a national park," and I just realized just how beautiful and special they were, was Zion.
Yeah, it sounds like you're all in on national parks now,
I
which
am.
is good.
Well, I mean, a big part is thanks to you and your wedding, which.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. So for everyone here listening, you got married in a national park. I mean, who does that?
We did. We got engaged and married in Zion National Park. So, proposed to my wife on the top of Angel's Landing, which was beautiful, and the weather was perfect. She was doing a great job of hiding the tears, which I thought were for being happy for getting proposed to, but it was really because she was really afraid of heights with that. It doesn't help that they have signs on the way up that say, 6 people have died here since 2004 on this hike. And
good to know.
Yes, seeing folks clinging onto trees and stuff like that on the way up did not put her mind at ease at all. But hopefully that little rock that I gave her at the top helped out a bunch.
Yeah.
But, yeah, we did got engaged there, and then about 9 months later, we got married up off of the kind of the western side of Zion National Park up there. And I mean, it was the perfect setup for us. It was a place that she had never been before. Obviously, being from Alaska, their type of terrain and what they have to offer up there is a little bit different than the deserts and high mountains from southern Utah. But we both fell in love with the area. And I mean, you can't beat a white wedding dress against the red rocks of southern Utah.
And Zion's special too. I mean, when I think of Utah, I think of the Great Salt Lake and whatnot, but Zion really is just, it's a kind of that perfect mixture of just enough moisture and water running through to give that a little bit of color and greenery, but mixing with the red rock, you said, it was just unbelievable. But I'm more interested in how did you, well, one, you've got an amazing wife who decided to get married in National Park, but two, how does that process work? I mean, can anybody just go and get married in National Park? I mean, was that a permit application or how does that go?
Yeah, we had to have a permit to get married there, and I mean, you talk to any photographers or wedding planners in that area, they know everything that you need to get it dialed in. But I think for us was just being in the military, we're obviously limited on the time that we can get off. So trying to judge what the weather is going to be like, because we got married in at the end of March, and talking to the wedding planner, they said, hey, you're either going to have a foot of snow or you're going to have 75 degrees.
And either way, it's going to be awesome.
Yeah. And the nice thing about Zion is it looks beautiful with either. So, yeah, we were like, okay, we're all in on this. We went out and visited the venue in October prior to the wedding, which obviously the weather wasn't anything of what it was going to be like. The terrain was a little bit different. Everything was blooming differently since the season was coming to an end. And we're like, all right, we're going to take this risk. And I mean, like I said, we both appreciate the outdoors. And if you can appreciate the outdoors when the weather's terrible, then you can definitely appreciate it when it's beautiful outside. So
yeah, but there's appreciating the outdoors, and then there's getting married in a national park. I mean, was your wife? I mean, obviously she sounds super cool, but was it your idea, her idea, like, to forego that beautiful church on the side of a hill somewhere? I mean, like, hey, let's get married in a field in a national park.
I think for us, we were looking at something that kind of represented our love the most. Obviously, getting married where you got engaged was a big part of that. The location, it was central to kind of all of our families traveling in, whether it was from the East Coast, from northern Utah, from Alaska, Minnesota, everybody coming in. We looked at that as, hey, we have a bunch of people coming in that have never been here before. Why not have it somewhere that they can go to and appreciate and kind of, not really a destination wedding so much, but
right.
I mean, it was enough that it was off the grid to the point that, people had to get out there and kind of enjoy the sights for the wedding.
And I'll be honest, I mean, the people that, wanted to get there, made an effort to be out there, right? And so obviously you put the invites out, but then, and it's everyone gets it's expensive, and it's, for me it was going out west. Other people, you have a lot of family out on the West Coast and in Alaska, but I mean, the people that you want to be there, they're some of your closest friends and family. So I think it obviously made it that much more special, and just the fact that it was against the beautiful Zion National Park was just made it incredible. So thanks again for the invite, by the way. Yeah, yeah, great wedding. Yeah. Anyway, so look, I mean, you're kind of a jack of all trades, right? I mean, like, you are a Navy pilot, you wear a flight suit by day, and you've been on deployment, you shoot weapons for the military, and you teach people how to do that, which is just incredible and speaks volume to the amount of knowledge you have and the amount of book smart that you have and everything you've done to get to that point. But at the same time, you find yourself, fishing a back river, taking a hike in a national park. Not everyone has those kind of resources, right? Not everyone's in the military. Not everyone is from the West Coast. What advice do you have for people that, maybe have been trying to find the next adventure, or trying to, just to get outside a little bit more, but they can't find the time, or they don't have the quote unquote, they don't have the money. Do you have any advice for those kind of people?
So obviously we moved out to San Diego, and outside of visiting the city, I had never been there before. Or seen what was outside of the city, knowing that there was mountains that were 45 minutes away from San Diego, or the California's largest state park was an hour and a half east of San Diego. So a lot of it just came down to doing a little research and trying to figure out what you love and what you enjoy doing. You don't need a lot of money to do trips like this. A lot of parks are free. Where we go to our favorite place is Anza Borrego State Park out east from San Diego. And you don't have to check in with rangers or anything. I mean, you just go out there, you find a little piece of land and set up your tent or sleep in your car, do whatever you need to do, and just get away from the city for a little bit. Obviously, doing your homework on what's allowed and what's not allowed out there with regards to firearms or drones or fireworks, or how you can have your fire pit, and all that goes a long way for maintaining and preserving that land for future people to use. But I mean, we just kind of look online and see what looks beautiful, and then we decide, hey, we're going to try and go out there and find it. And sometimes we do find it, sometimes we don't.
Yeah.
But it's kind of that path that you're taking to get there has even led us to some more beautiful places than what we were initially looking for. So
Right.
I think social media does play a big influence in getting people out and saying, oh, where that picture is taken, I want to get out there and see that.
For better and for worse.
Yeah. And I think for us, we look at that as, hey, it's a place we want to go, but we want to appreciate it. We're not going there just to get that same picture.
Right.
We want to go there. And I've even noticed a lot on our trips that we'll do an entire weekend and we take 2 photos the whole trip because we're just out there enjoying ourselves and not focusing so much on fabricating memories of what's out there, but just kind of, we go on that trip and then on the way home, that's when we kind of start to relive those memories that we had out there. So
For sure.
It's a different take on going out there. Obviously you want to document it, especially if you have a dog, which we do, seeing him out there and running along the rocks or sitting next to the wildflowers or playing in the river or something like that. But yeah, I mean, we, like I said, we just kind of go out there and enjoy ourselves. And most of the time our cell phones just sit in the car or we'll just put them on airplane mode. We just throw them in the tent and we just go out for the day. So
I think for me, I mean, having mountains, which San Diego does have them nearby, is a huge plus. Obviously, you get your change of scenery and elevation, but I mean, there's a lot of places on the East Coast and in the Midwest as well where you may not have that. But if you get about an hour to 2 hours outside the city, you can always find something, right? It may not be a national park, especially here out on the East Coast. It may not even be a national forest, but there's usually going to be some sort of state park, whether that's, on land, on water. I was even just in Florida, and, I've been going to Florida my entire life. I've got a lot of family down there. And we made an effort to go to the Everglades, which I've also never been to. And you don't think of the Everglades as much. It used to be called a swamp back in the day, which it's actually not because it's moving water. But the point is, it kind of worked its way up to become a national park over the years, but it's beautiful. I mean, you wouldn't think about it. It's not Denali, it's not Yosemite, but it is beautiful in its own right. And there are so many opportunities to get out there and to get to the outdoors, and you don't have to, you mentioned going camping, which is awesome, but you don't even have to do that. I mean, just get outside, go for a day hike. I mean, literally take a backpack, put your tennis shoes on and go. It's not rocket scientist. It doesn't take more. Then obviously, from there you can, get some more gear and invest from there and then have fun with it. Shout out to REI for all of your shopping needs, which we both are pretty much platinum members at this point.
Thanks for taking my money.
Yeah. But anyway, I just think what you're doing is fantastic. You mentioned your dog. So you don't have just an average dog. So tell everyone here about your dog and where Sir Charles comes from and what his story.
So we we went on our honeymoon to Thailand, and we went over there to volunteer at an elephant sanctuary for a little bit up in Chiang Mai. If you guys haven't checked it out, great place to visit. We spent a few days in Bangkok just to get that full city experience, but Chiang Mai is an absolutely incredible little town up in the mountains of Thailand. It has that kind of mountain town vibe, just a bunch of small shops and things like that to get into. And we had no idea what we were getting into once we flew up there. We just knew we were going to go hang out with some elephants. So went up to Elephant Nature Park, and what they do is they rescue elephants from the circus industry, entertainment industry, from logging, and they essentially just take care of these animals until they pass away, giving them a better life. So we weren't up there riding elephants or watching them perform or anything like that. These guys take the elephants out of that abusive environment and then just give them the happiest life that they can have for the rest of their time. So we were up there washing the elephants, feeding them, cleaning their pens, petting them, just giving them the love and affection that they need. And they just happen to have a dog rescue also on the property up there.
Yeah.
And we're like, oh, cool. We'll go over and we'll help walk some of the dogs because they had over 400 dogs at this location, and with less than 10 volunteers, the dogs aren't able to be walked every day or being able to I just get the attention that they need. So we went in there and helped clean some of the pens and pet the dogs and walk them up and down the street to just get them some exercise. And we found this beautiful black beast that was standing amongst all the dogs out there. And our hearts are bigger than our brains, and we decided to adopt him. We were not looking for a dog at the time, but
you didn't go to Thailand on your honeymoon and expecting to bring home a dog. So.
we did not. So we asked, "Hey, can we bring him home?" And they're like, "Yeah, absolutely." We ended up paying the fees for the dog passport and the crate and everything, and they got him from the jungles of Thailand out to LAX, and we drove up about a week after we landed from our trip.
Wow.
Drove up to LA, picked him up, and we've had him for almost 2 years now.
I'm surprised. I'm surprised there's not a longer wait of like a quarantine period or whatnot with bringing a dog in to the United States, especially from a place like Thailand.
Yeah, that was one thing that blew us away, is that the U.S. does not have a quarantine, at least coming from Thailand. There's some folks that were there from Germany, and their dog, I think they had to wait 6 months before they could have him through the quarantine period. So
take them into Germany before.
Yeah,
okay.
The dog went to Germany and then had to wait 6 months before they could bring him home. So super fortunate that we have that relationship, that we could just grab him right from the airport, and I threw him in the truck and drove home, and we've had him ever since. So
and that wasn't too expensive with the fees and the permits for.
No, I mean, it was $500 to get.
Wow.
And that's air fees, passport, everything included to get him all the way over here.
Awesome.
And he was 3 years old when we got him, so a little bit. He wasn't a puppy, but it was kind of essentially felt like we were starting with a puppy. He obviously didn't speak any English because he was over in Thailand. His name was Charcoal, which when they have 400 dogs, they literally just name the dogs whatever they can find over there.
His name was Charcoal in English or in Thai?
It was in English. I don't even know how to pronounce it in Thai. But we brought him over, and we figured Charlie or Charles was similar enough to Charcoal that if he did respond to it, which he didn't initially, that it would kind of stick with him. And we've had him for 2 years, and awesome. He's been wonderful. He's 65 pounds. He essentially looks like a black golden retriever. So maybe you guys might see some pictures of him on social media, because he kind of consumes our lives, for whether it's day-to-day stuff, walks, or when we go camping or anything like that. He usually gets all the photos, or all the photos that we take. He's in there somewhere.
He's a beautiful dog. Do you know what kind of dog he is? I mean, do they know or have a good idea, or just
breaking news for you. We just did the DNA test.
Oh, nice.
And he ended up being he's 5 different dogs. So he's a combo pack. He was primarily golden retriever. Second, he was a part Chow, part Shar-Pei, part Jindo, which is this like.
I didn't know what Shar-Pei or Jindo means.
So Jindo is this like underground Korean dog that is not bred outside of the U.S. or I mean outside of Korea, unless it's on some sort of black market somewhere.
Oh,
so who knows where that came into play.
Pretty much he's a badass.
Yeah, and then the 5th breed that he is was long-haired wiener dog, which makes no sense at all.
Good to know.
Yeah. So he was pretty unique dog when we got him. He's obviously primarily a retriever, so he's got the webbed feet and the longer tail, but not a big fan of water. So we're still working on that with him. He'll when we were up fishing a couple weeks ago up in the Sierras, he would kind of walk out to the river just to like be next to us, but you could tell he wasn't exactly enjoying himself.
Sure.
But, camping, snow, any sort of hikes, I mean, he just freaking loves being outdoors. We'll just leave him outside. Not that we leave him outside, but we give him access to the outdoors as much as he can, and
for sure,
he just likes to sit and watch the world go by. So great dog.
Do you fly with him?
We have attempted to fly with him, but damn, it is expensive to bring a dog that is not a service animal
right.
On an aircraft. So Delta, if you're listening, make it cheaper so I can take my dog home to my mom.
And I have 2, so it's impossible, especially with a baby. So.
Oh yeah.
Anyway, well, that's exciting. Well, nice, man. Well, I mean, again, you're kind of a jack of all trades, and I've always admired what you do with your free time, and looked up to I think. Just getting back to it, kind of the root of this podcast, and being this is the first episode of the Adventure Bound podcast, is that it really doesn't matter, kind of where you've come from, and almost even to the point of like where you are now. I think the big thing is, and just your living, breathing example is if you've got a dream in life, go pursue it. Obviously, you're a Navy pilot. That is not an easy feat to do, to get into, the Naval Academy, one for starters, and then to become an officer in the Navy, and then, be a leader of sailors. And now you're an instructor pilot, for goodness sakes, to do that. But then also just you make every day, it seems you're thinking about what's next, right? You take your leave, which is, vacation, your vacation time to go out west, to travel. You're already out west, maybe go back home to Utah, go to Alaska, go to Thailand. I mean, that in itself is unbelievable. So, I just think that you're an inspiration for all of us out there to, finding ways to kind of, live an adventurous life, and just, that's awesome. So keep doing what you're doing.
Thanks, Rob. And I think the biggest thing to take away from all this is, the place that we get away is out in the woods, and that helps us the most. I know that's not going to work for other folks if they just want to get out and go to the park down the street or anything like that. Like you said, it doesn't have to be anything big, but just being able to find that balance of what you enjoy and work is the biggest thing to stay sane. So definitely loved talking to you about what we like to do, and I'd love to be on the show again, and we can go into specifics on what it is in the different areas of the country that we enjoy, and kind of dig a little deeper on what being outside really means to us. So
for sure. So do you have, I guess, wrapping this up, do you have a next adventure for you and your wife?
So our next adventure is probably moving. We got orders up to Whidbey Island, Washington.
Oh, nice.
For my next job, which if you guys don't know where that is, it's about 2 hours north of Seattle. We are 2 hours from 3 national parks up there, which is amazing. So I know we're going to be taking full advantage of those. And it's I think that's kind of the biggest thing we're looking for right now. Obviously going to try and take advantage of California as much as we can before we leave here. Maybe a few trips out to the desert one more time, or at least up to the Sierras this summer. But I think the biggest thing for us is just making sure we've got everything in order to move into this next step of our life, and find something fun to do up there. So we've already started our research on obviously of what we can find to do up there. Washington is a beautiful state for finding things to do, whether in the ocean, in the mountains, or the high deserts out east. So I think the possibilities are endless. We just got to get out there and do it. Yeah.
Well, again, man, thanks again for being on the show, being my very first guest, which is awesome. Thanks for being inspiration for not only myself, but everyone here listening, and just keep doing what you're doing.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And look for us on the social media. We're always posting pictures of our dog and the places that we like to go. So
what's your social media information? Where can people find you?
I am on Instagram at #HoffGrid, HOFFGRID.
I guess Hoff the Grid was taken.
All the good ones are taken.
It gets you every time. Yeah.
I know, right? But yeah, you'll find us on there. Hit me up if you guys are around and need a place to get away.
Awesome. Well, thanks again, brother. Really appreciate your time.
Hell yeah.
See ya.